The 2016 World Cup season finally came to a close in Denmark. With just 3 tour stops to qualify for a ticket to the finals in Odense, the cream of the crop rose to the top, securing the 7 sacred spots coveted by so many. This quaint city, best known for producing Hans Christian Andersen, would now produce world champions, men and women who would write their own storybook endings. When health problems forced Sarah Lopez to withdraw just a week before the finals, the call went out to Dalia Crook to fill the field. The 16-year-old American jumped at the chance to make the trip to Denmark and her first appearance at the finals. She would give Crystal Gavin a run for her money, forcing her American teammate to raise the level of her game. Crook would finally falter on her final shot of the match, letting Crystal break away for a 6-point victory in the quarterfinals. The absence of Sarah Lopez meant women's compound would be a wide-open affair at this final, giving Marcella Tonioli and Lily Chanu Panam just as good a shot at winning the title. Tonioli would take advantage of this golden opportunity, taking the first steps toward the podium in her quarterfinal showdown with the great Indian archer, who found herself trailing by 6 going to the 5th end. Both would open with solid scores of 9 on their first shots. It was still a 6-point margin, though. Panam would apply a little pressure, putting her next shot on the 10 line. That brought out Marcella's competitive spirit. Her next arrow piercing the 10-ring too. Panam would slip on her next shot just a bit, a 9 for the woman who'd finished in the top 10 at all 3 tour stops this season. So basically, Tonioli only had to hit the target to take this match, and Marcella did much more. Back-to-back 10s, sending the free-spirited Italian to the semis. The match between Inge van Kaspel and Yeşim Bostan much tighter. These 2 young women from Turkey and the Netherlands were separated by only 4 points after the first 4 ends. And Yeşim's lead was down to just 2 following the first shot of the 5th end. Inge van Kaspel trying to make a late run to catch Bostan, who responded to the pressure with a big-time shot. Van Kaspel was coming on strong at the end, but she would simply run out of arrows. It was the classic case of too little, too late, Yeşim Bostan advancing to the semis. An all-Danish affair in the 4th quarterfinal pairing, a 2-for-1 deal for the fans who could root for Erica Anir, the transplant from Australia now married to Martin Dansbo, and they could also cheer for Sarah Holst Sonneshin, the top seed with Sarah Lopez out of the picture. Down by 5 going into the 5th end, Erica could ill afford an 8. Not with Sonneshin lowering the boom. Erica Anir would land her next shot near the 10 ring, but fall even further behind as Sarah found the center circle again. It would be a solid showing for the former Aussie, but the 5th end turned out to be a showcase for Sarah Holst Sonneshin. A trifecta of 10s signals the end for Erica while sending this up-and-coming star on to the semifinals. The bracket for the next round had Marcella Tonioli taking on Crystal Gavin in the King's Garden. But this was no walk in the park for Gavin, who found herself on the short end of the score going into the 5th end. Trailing Tonioli by 5, Crystal wasn't about to crack under the pressure. The trouble for her at this point, Marcella wasn't about to give any ground either. To gain ground, Gavin had to be in the center circle, and that wasn't happening. But it was for Marcella, who added another point to her lead with this shot. By the time Crystal connected with a direct hit, she was simply out of shots. Tonioli's lead was just too big. Turns out 9 was enough. Marcella hanging on to win by a comfortable 5-point margin. Nothing but love and respect between 2 of compound's top competitors. The second semifinal match would pit 2 women just starting to climb the ladder in compound, and they had the fans on the edge of their seats. After splitting the first 2 sets, Denmark's Sarah Holst Sonneshin had made her move, taking a 2-point lead over Yeşim Bostan after the first 4 ends. This match still too close to call. Bostan kept battling, setting the bar for Sonneshin, both scoring 9s on the first shots of the 5th end. With time running out, Yeşim would need to make a move, but another 9 only provided a chance for Sarah to get some more separation. That 10 gave her a 3-point cushion that would prove to be more than enough to keep Bostan at bay. A strong finish by Yashim came too late to change the outcome. Denmark's new darling, Sarah Holst Sonneshen, sewed up the victory with a 10 of her own to carry a 3-point victory on to the finals. Meanwhile, Yashim Bostan would have to turn right around and try to bounce right back in the battle for 3rd place. Ranked 6th in the world, her next challenge would be upsetting the woman ranked 2nd in the world. The one thing both had in common, neither wanted to go home without a trophy, something more to show for all the hard work in Denmark and throughout the entire World Cup season. As we pick up the action, Galvin's got a 3-point advantage after 3 ends. Bostan starts a comeback bid with a 10. And Crystal comes through with one of her own. Bostan goes back to back. Galvin's gritty, she does the same. Back to Yashim, who gets the clean sweep in set 4. 10-10-10 for this terrific Turkish archer. And her perseverance pays off as she moves back within 1 of the lead after an 8 off the bow of Crystal Galvin. Bostan refuses to yield. She's just not going away. No, it's Crystal Galvin giving ground and giving up the lead. It's gone after that 9. The match was tied at 125, but for how long? Yashim could not stand prosperity. After coming all the way back, her 9 left the door open for Crystal to take the lead right back. Consider it done. Galvin's up 1 with 1 to go. Bostan had hoped to apply more pressure on Crystal, but a 9 meant Galvin did not have to be perfect. She just had to keep her last shot in the yellow rings, and she followed those instructions to a T. It was close, but Crystal came through in the clutch, and as a result, she was able to walk away with a 1-point decision. It wasn't easy, but Galvin was able to grind away and find a way to reach the podium here in Denmark. Now it was Sarah Sonneshen's turn in the spotlight. Ranked 3rd in the world, she became the top seed in the women's compound after Sarah Lopez was forced to withdraw for personal reasons just a week before the finals. She packed the stands in Odense, the Danish fans turning out to watch the coronation of a new queen. But there was one thing standing in her way, a formidable foe by the name of Marcella Tonioli. And the veteran from Italy had fought hard to get here, passing 2 difficult tests by knocking off Crystal Galvin and Lily Shanu Panam. Not much separation between Sarah and Marcella after 3 ends, Sonneshen on top by a single point. Tonioli took the first crack at it in the 4th set and posted a shot that put her in trouble. Sarah, sensing an opportunity to add a point to her lead, and she cashed in, 95-93 Sonneshen. Tonioli would rebound, tacking on a 10 of her own, but there seemed to be no let-up by Sonneshen. Still, Marcella's been around long enough to know not to give in, not to give up. She keeps hanging around and is rewarded when Sarah gives a point back on her last shot of the 4th end. This is still anybody's match, anybody's title to claim. It's just too close to call. It's also not a promising start to the 5th end for Marcella, especially after Sarah takes full advantage, going up by 2 with only 2 arrows to go. Tonioli appears to have caught the line with her second shot, which may loom large after Sarah Sonneshen clearly lands her next arrow in the 9 ring. Tonioli, so mentally tough, takes aim and hits pay dirt on what seems to be her final shot. But you just never know. A 9 would seemingly be enough to bring these proceedings to a close, but in archery, things quite often aren't as they seem to be. The judges have a job to do, and that second shot by Tonioli bears closer inspection. Lo and behold, the 9 turns into a 10, and we have a tie, which means this showdown is headed for a shoot-off. A bronze medalist at the finals in 2011, Tonioli also knew the heartache of losing in the first round at the finals in Tokyo just a year later. She'd already won 6 shoot-offs during her career, so the cards seemed stacked in Tonioli's favor until her arrow drifted into the 9 ring. But Sanashin's arrow also strayed into the 9 ring, almost exactly as far from dead center as Tonioli's shot. A tough call, no doubt, for the judge, but after close scrutiny, the decision went to Marcella Tonioli by less than 3 millimeters. 3 millimeters that meant the world to Marcella. I cannot explain how I'm feeling. After the World Cup in Tokyo 4 years ago, where I lost in the first round, this is a great comeback for me. This is a title I wanted to win for many years, and I finally got it. I'm just excited about this.
I'm Real Wild, and I'm going to explain aiming with a compound bow. Aiming is super important. I mean, in our game, one miss could be the difference between a win and a loss. So the biggest tools are your sight and your peep are your 2 big reference points for aiming with your bow. The piece of plastic in the string is a peep sight. Really simple. It's just got a hole in it for you to look to and reference for your front sight. There's a bunch of different looks. There's some that are tubular, some that are this. Mine has a hood on it to keep the sun out. Just a pretty simple piece of equipment, but very necessary. The features of the scope is it has a magnifying lens in there that brings the target, makes it look a little bigger than it is. A little dot in there to go for the size of reference. You have a level in there that helps keep your bow level, because if it's not level, it'll go left or right and all that, and it just keeps your arrows more in a line. And you put the peep on it and it clears it up, because otherwise, just looking through a piece of glass, we all know what a beveled piece of glass, it just doesn't look real clear. The relationship between the peep and the scope is a pretty simple one. It's used to keep you in line. You just kind of look down it and it looks through the scope and helps you aim at the middle of the target. If the peep and the scope aren't in line, it can cause you to be off a little bit with your head. It causes a lot more variance. This just helps keep you more consistent. When I shoot, I try to keep the pin in the middle as much as I possibly can, because that's a huge part of hitting the middle. It's hard to hit there if you don't aim there. So when you have good equipment and your alignment's right and you've used everything right and the dot's in the middle, it should hit nothing but the middle. The biggest tip I can give you with aiming has nothing really to do with the scope or the peep sight, but to play with your draw length, because if it's too short, it gets really herky-jerky and the dot jumps around, and if it's too long, it floats around uncontrollably. You can't stop it. So good luck, and I hope your dot stays in the middle.
Seppi Siljers came to Denmark taking dead aim on becoming the first South African archer to reach the podium at a World Cup final. With his wife in the coach's box, Seppi would need all the moral support he could muster in his quarterfinal match with the defending World Cup champion, Turkey's Demir Elma Açlı. Through the first 3 ends, both were doing a good job of keeping their dot in the middle. Siljers a bit more accurate, as reflected by his 3-point lead in the match, which was threatened early in the 4th end. Seppi slips just a bit, giving back a point thanks to that 9. Demir dials up a 9 himself, but Siljers can't take advantage. The lead stays at 2, but the Turk ups the ante. And that brings out the best in Seppi. Siljers' flawless form keeping Elma Açlı at bay. The defending champion opened the final end with a shot that dropped down south of the 10 ring. And this time, the South African sharpshooter wasn't about to let this opportunity pass him by. His lead is up to 3. Demir in dire straits. Out of desperation, he conjures up a center shot that becomes a bigger factor after Seppi slips into the red zone for an 8 that closes the gap to a single point. Elma Achla could have made things even more interesting with another 10, but alas, he'd run out of magic. With some of the pressure off now, Cilliers could relax and shoot the solid shot he needed to wrap up the victory that he hoped would be the first step down the road to the World Cup final podium. The next quarterfinal match just as tight. The Honey Badger Real Wild, badgered by Turkey's Evren Çağıran, who was on Rio's heels after 4 sets, down by just a point. The Turks taking the fight right to Rio, but this elite archer rips off a shot that holds off Çağıran. Evren's next arrow goes slightly off course, as does Rio. But 9 was enough to secure the match for the former World Cup champion. One of the more intriguing pairings, Sergio Panyi facing a new challenge from 19-year-old Croatian Dom Budin. It's an upset in the making, Budin bidding for a big win with a 4-point lead. The Sultan of Smooth's got a lot of ground to make up, and he does, cutting the lead in half. So now it's up to Budin to bury his opponent and put him away for good. Easier said than done, with Panyi putting his arrows in the 10 ring 3 times in a row. But the teenager from Zagreb takes care of business. The same could be said about Martin Damsbo, and they're starting to talk about Mike Schlosser in the same way. Not much breathing room between these two with 3 arrows to go in the last quarterfinal match of the day. Damsbo drills one to turn up the heat under Mike, and it appeared to work. Schlosser surrendering a point, dropping his lead to a deuce. The Great Dane keeps the heat on, but Schlosser throws water on the fire with a clinching 9. A confidence-building win that would stand Schlosser in good stead in his next 2 matches. On to the semifinals, in a pairing that pit 2 men from opposite ends of the planet. Rio Wild coming all the way from North America, facing Seppi Cilliers, who'd made the long trip from South Africa. All even after 4 ends, Rio aims for the center and lands in the 9 ring. Seppi makes the best of this break to take a 1-point lead. Wild is on target with his next shot. And the same goes for Seppi Cilliers. There's still only 1 point separating these two, coming down to the last shot. Rio's not going to make it easy for Seppi, who needs to run the table in the final end to avoid a shoot-off. The great South African shooter not interested in working overtime. Much to his own relief, he's able to clinch with 3 straight 10s and set himself up for a chance to stand atop the podium come day's end. The venerable veterans of Compound would soon make way for 2 rising stars in Compound. 22-year-old Mike Schlosser matched up against 19-year-old Dom Budin, both hungry for a chance to shoot for the World Cup title. Schlosser's got a slim lead going to the 5th end, but Budin's coming after him. And the young Croatian picks up a point when the Dutchman delivers a 9. Dom Budin's dialed in, making it back-to-back 10s. And when Mike misses the 10 ring again, this match is tied with 1 to go. Budin takes himself out of contention with an 8 that rolled out the red carpet for Schlosser, who didn't have to be perfect to wrap up the victory. A narrow 1-point win, but just like Seppi Cilliers, it was enough to get Mike past the semis and into the championship match.
Our match coming up will be the
A 3rd-place trophy would be a great consolation prize for either Dom Budin or Rio Wild. The teenager from Croatia with impressive credentials, but now he was facing a man who started shooting before Budin was born. At the age of 42, Rio still able to put up great numbers and hang with the best of them. We'll pick up this match after 9 arrows. The American up by 3 after strong showings in the 2nd and 3rd ends. So once again, Budin's got his work cut out for him. Dom Buden starts a comeback bid right here with this shot. But Rio tries to nip that in the bud. The lead stays at 3. Buden unrelenting, not going away. But Rio's determined to hold him at bay. Dom not discouraged, though. An outstanding group of arrows from the young man in the 4th end. And it pays off when Wild just barely misses his prey on the final shot of the 4th. So, Buden does gain a little ground as the lead is down to just 2 points. Rio wishing he could take that 3rd shot back, but no mulligans at the World Cup final. So, it's on to the 5th set with a slim cushion for the former world champion. Buden breaks his string of 10s by opening with a 9. Rio sees that, and he pounces. He's back in the penthouse again. But Buden likes the view from the top spot, too. He's back in the high life. Trouble for him is Rio Wild's not about to budge. Try as he might, at this point, Buden's going to need the Wild man's cooperation. And Rio does give an inch, but only an inch. 9 is more than enough to bring down the curtain and secure another victory to the man who's been such a dominant figure in this sport for such a long time. The talented Dom Buden may become such a figure over time, but on this golden autumn afternoon in Denmark, this old dog proved he can still run with the best of them. As it turned out, though, the best was yet to come. No one doubts Mike Schlosser's talent, but after fading a few times under the bright lights in some of the bigger matches he's been in, some began to wonder if Mr. Perfect did indeed have podium panic. His own coach, Ron Vanderhoff, was looking to see his protege rise to the occasion this time in the championship shootout at this World Cup final. With Seppi Cilliers on target too, Mike appeared to have little margin for error. The South African had been surgically precise in his quarterfinal and semifinal victories. In this match, though, it was Schlosser displaying pinpoint precision, hitting the center with his first 9 shots, building a 6-point lead going into the 4th end, which started with a solid effort from Cilliers, who could make no headway with Magic Mike Schlosser running his streak to 10 10s in a row. Seppi would slip just a bit on his next shot, but this time it wouldn't cost him. Schlosser's streak would finally come to a close, with Mike recording a 9 on his 11th shot of the match. This time, though, Mike wasn't frustrated. He took it in stride. He still had a 6-point lead, and it looked as though that would hold up with Cilliers unable to mount a late charge. A pair of 9s in the 4th end wouldn't be nearly enough against an opponent who was zeroed in on the 10 ring. The dazzling Dutchman now had a 7-point lead with only 3 arrows to go. With seemingly little doubt about the outcome, the focus shifted to just how many 10s Mike Schlosser might shoot en route to the title. While Seppi Cilliers was shooting well, the chances of a comeback appeared to be slim and none. Schlosser may have gotten out of his groove with that 11th shot, but he had plenty of cushion to play with. Another 9, far from fatal to his chances. He was still on top by 7. Credit Seppi Cilliers for staying focused and continuing to shoot with purpose. He was on point with his 14th shot of the match. But by now the story was all about the man shining just as brightly as the orange jersey he wore.
9 on 10 on the line.
With Seppi Cilliers serving as something of a foil for the near perfection the Dutchman was putting on display. Ironically, the only letdown would come on the final shot of the day, with Mike providing evidence he is human after all. Not the resounding note he'd hoped for a climax, but it did not seem to matter to Mike Schlosser, who'd created a body of work he could be proud of. After winning world titles and setting world records, this may have been Mike's finest moment. I feel good. I made a lot of really great steps. I'm still not there yet. I'm still a little rusty. I'm getting better and better. And I'm pretty sure that next time I'll have it totally under control.
ben er nog niet helemaal, maar dat komt wel goed.
A fitting way to finish the outdoor season with a command performance from Mike Schlosser. A great memory to carry us through the winter until next spring and the start of the 2017 campaign. For everyone at World Archery, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next year with more coverage of the Archery World Cup Tour.
Wow.